Okay, we're rolling. So one of the things that we talked about in our videos is the idea of leaving space and how space almost has its own language and informs all the music, and how easy it is to not leave space. So you have to consciously go after that. But the other thing you've talked to me about is the pressure system component to driving the composition, whatever that happens to be. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about that.
Well, yeah, we're trying to figure out how to define space in some aspects of it. First thing, I've said this before, but if I was to teach a class, I'd probably put up on the chalkboard space equals creativity, and maybe get into an interesting discussion equals. But the more we get into this, I'm not sure it doesn't equal creativity. It comes with that. Pressure systems. I think this room has really assisted that in the pressure systems. Certainly the way the gongs vibrate will indicate
Right.
certain things. And when you and I are playing, sometimes we will hear a new tempo in the space. And I've tried to use the words pressure systems. There might be some other ways to put it.
Okay, well, so how does that idea of a pressure system sort of present itself in whatever spontaneous composition that is happening?
Well, as I've said, we've talked about it, at the end of, right when you stop the space, the alertness that's required, especially right after that, is crucial. Well, I sometimes call it smack dabbing, where we smack dab something and then we hit a gong together right on point. And a lot of times that will be all the clarity enters through that spot. So a lot of it is the little space right after it. On the other hand, I think we've also talked about, in listening back to things, were we leaving enough space? That sort of not yet, don't come in yet. And so there you've got the initial part, but then if you let yourself listen into it a bit, it will present something. So in the shorts thing, I still think you can make those shifts. That's one area, and then sometimes the longer area of the space takes you somewhere else. It really is about listening to the vibration of the notes, and
Yeah, and I guess one of the things that I've observed or experienced in doing this is that space, during the time that you're leaving a space, another sort of sound or cadence occurs to you, and at some point it's like, oh yeah, that, and then you start to do it. And that changes the nature of whatever was going on in a way that can be really fun. And if the other person hears it, which frequently is the case, then you head down this whole different path.
well, the other person will hear it. That's where this intention comes in, because you could say it's simultaneous, but a lot of times it's just a little bit. Somebody leads the way there. Like when I'm playing with you, sometimes I will get behind and react to you. Sometimes
Yep.
I'm playing with you, and sometimes I'm the one that's leading. And it's a very subtle little thing
Yeah.
about where
Yeah,
that's
no, I
happening.
know what you're talking about.
And so a lot of times you say, well, they hit it right together. Yeah, but somebody jumped in there a little bit. If you're really alert, you can hear that thing happening.
Right.
And it's the confidence. Once that's happening, go, okay, we're going over there.
Right. Yeah, it just takes off and goes that direction, whatever that is. So you had a composition that sort of demonstrates that pressure point. And so what are we going to hear in this composition? What is it? And so just explain a little bit about that.
Well, this was an album that we called How We Play. It's the Brian Myers Trio. Brian's a tenor saxophone player I've known for years, since he was 20 or something. And Nick Rivard, who I've played a lot with, he's playing bass on this. What I think you hear on this, is, in a funny way, is the drums. I won't say we're playing the melody, but I will put out certain things, the way I hit the cymbals or toms, each one of those things has has stretch marks or whatever you want. And Brian seems to be using the horn to field that. And then the person I noticed last is Nick, but Nick is always moving it forward as the thing gets phrased. But it's an interesting example of where the drums are actually, maybe in a certain way, leading the thing by the melody or the different sounds that I'm playing. And Brian, I always like this about him, he's very good at being a fielder. I mean, saxophone players a lot of times can be the lead thing.
Right.
But he's not doing that here. The other thing that I think is really interesting on it is one of the issues that I'm having a lot of times with music is the velocity is too fast and hard. This one is not tracking in that way. It's slowed down a lot, so there's not a lot of extra velocity in it, which you can hear.
Okay. So, how did you guys start doing this? What was the setup for it?
The setup was that Brian Myers had held this idea in his head. We have a trio recording from a while back. He doesn't get down here much. He says, I really want to record the trio. And this had been something he'd been holding his mind for a long time. So we finally get here. We set up. Usually a lot of times what it is, I'm over here, I push the buttons, and then I go over to the drums and sit down. I know that sounds simple, but a lot of times then we pick it up and everybody waits. And we hear it. This room really helps incubate, or whatever you call it, that space. It's got years of doing that. People will come in here and they'll notice that things will slow down a little bit. And this room carries a lot of that energy, which is something we've talked about, jazz clubs and stuff. That I would go to the Village Vanguard and I go in and go, boy, there's an energy in here. There's been a lot of playing in here. The sadness for me is that we tear these places down, and it took a long time for that energy to build up. Right. And I guess it's been a real bonus for me to be here for 35 years, having moved a lot as a kid and stuff, and to actually be in here for, how many 7-year cycles is that?
Yeah.
And it really has made a difference. It's an unfair advantage.
So you guys just started playing.
We just started playing.
You didn't say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this.
That's right.
It was just the three of us are going to start playing.
Well, and that brings up a really point we'll come back to, proceeding from the unknown. The aperture of the unknown is really a trip. It can be very disconcerting, and when it doesn't go well, you kind of want to tighten up the hatches. And over the years playing jazz, we would do that. Stop, let's write this out, let's tighten that up. It's really easy to do that, but I think eventually we just surrendered to, no, everything's got to proceed as it proceeds, and everything's got to be accepted.
Okay. And so you guys just recorded this album in what, a couple hours, and it is what it is?
This is all what we recorded. In fact, we mixed the thing together listening back to it. This was the whole thing. We got on a 34-minute, 4 tunes, 34 minutes. We captured a chunk of Zen, or whatever you want to call it. And at the very end, after we finish, there's a pause, and I go, this is how we play. You giggle. So this is how the thing got named. This is how we play. All of this stuff just kind of happening on it, but it was unusual to sit in here with Nick and Brian and mix the thing and chat, put it on and listen to it. I don't think I've ever done that where the mix of this was done right with all of us in the room, and I might want to do that again. It was kind of cool to share that and accept the fact, well, that's the mix.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to say before people listen to it?
I think that's it. I mean, I think the Molecules Frolic, I do think what you're going to see is an interesting combo package of stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.